Hello, everybody, once again, and welcome to Breaking Ponies, where we still have no idea whether we're wasting our time with this.
We probably are, but we've got a lot of time to waste.
Not as much as you'd think.
Well, you might not, but I do. Anyway,
Yes. So today we have episode 19 and 20. 19 of Ponies is
mhm.
episode 19 is called Dog and Pony Show, and you told me I'd love this one because it's a Rarity-centric episode.
Yes, they both are Rarity-centric episodes, but at least the second one she shares the spotlight with Fluttershy.
Yes.
But we'll get to that. So we got a fun half hour full of Rarity.
Full 45 minutes full of Rarity. Which is,
Yeah.
of course, coming back off of the previous one where we did two Cutie Mark Crusader episodes in a row, which brings me back to the pacing issue.
Well, yeah, well, it's a show where I mean, firstly, don't forget that these shows aired
A
like
week
a
apart,
week
yeah.
apart. So pacing isn't exactly an issue in a show that clearly is sort of episodic as this. It
Well,
is just
wouldn't
slice of life.
necessarily. Is this the actual air order or just the production order? Because if they actually aired in this order, I could almost argue that he'd be more upset because you waited 2 weeks, and even if you don't like the Crusaders, they're like, that's 2 weeks of this show. God damn it.
Well, I believe I think they are actually in air order. I can't remember off the top of my head, but I'm pretty sure that was the order that they aired in. I guess it's just a case of, that's just the way the episode order fell during production, so that's the way they fell when they were aired. I don't think it's terrible that they end up putting two Rarity
Yeah,
episodes
yeah. I
next
mean,
to
it's
each
not
other.
it's not terribly bad, but it's just the if I would have done, I would have probably spaced them out a bit more, so it's more of an even. Because obviously other episodes that center on other characters, so you could just rearrange those slightly, and like put them
Mm,
like you do like one of the Cutie Mark episodes and then one of the Rarity episodes.
I guess it's just like, that's just how the episodes fell, as I said. I don't think they actively picked it like that. I
Yeah,
think it
yeah.
just sort of
It's just how it
happened.
worked out and whatever.
Because, I mean, it's entirely possible that during production they came up with these episodes like weeks apart, and some episodes just went slower than others, so it just sort of all
Right.
ended up
Yeah,
like that.
that would make sense.
Well, you often have episodes sort of sometimes they air out of order as well, compared to the order that they were produced. You sometimes see that in shows where they reference something that technically hasn't happened yet, and then it happens in another episode, and
Yeah,
suddenly
they
you
do
realize
that.
these are out of
But
order.
that's only with like really, I guess, kind of poorly organized shows, like Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, the old one.
Yeah, well, again, that's one of those shows where you have to think, well, it's probably a production thing as
Yeah,
opposed
cause
to,
yeah, that show had really bad production problems.
well, obviously, it was a show about talking green turtles. There's your problem right there.
Yeah, so let's get back to talking about talking pastel ponies.
It's
So
a
in this episode,
tangent. We do this. We go on tangents. This is a podcast.
yeah, so in this episode, we're introduced to a character named Sapphire Shores, who is a big, important fashion mogul, I guess.
Was she a fashion model? I thought she was just a star or an actor or something. I can't remember what it was.
But well,
Anyway,
she goes
she's
into
big.
Rarity's shop and she wants to buy a costume that she ended up designing that's covered with all these jewels. But
Hmm.
she also wants five more of them with all kinds of other jewels. But Rarity just used all the jewels that she had, so they need to go out hunting for more
Yes.
gemstones.
So
Which,
Rarity and Spike go off, and
yes, even though it's Rarity centric, it had Spike, which helped.
yeah, it wasn't massively Rarity centric because there was that whole sort of middle section where it was all the other ponies.
Yeah, of course. Well, I don't think any of the episodes have been just one character
Mm,
because that's when you have an ensemble cast like this. You don't want to do that.
exactly.
So they go searching, and they make a pretty decent team. Rarity finds the gems, then Spike digs them up, but he wants to eat a lot of them because he's a dragon.
Yeah, dragons eat gems
Eat gems
apparently.
for some reason in this world.
I think for them it's like rock candy.
Right. Quite
I,
literally in some cases.
yeah. I don't know. That's a
But
guess, but
he likes her. He wants to be nice to her, so he restrains himself, and
yeah,
she ends up getting kidnapped by these creatures called Diamond Dogs,
yeah.
which are the first creatures in the series that, to my knowledge, are not based off of an existing mythology.
Probably not. I don't know. Maybe diamond dogs are an actual thing somewhere.
Possibly because they were designed like sort of a mythical creature. They kind of had like an extra hand on their tail.
Mm.
Or they had like these like bumps on their tail, which looked almost like mangled fingers of some kind.
Well, it,
So
yeah.
it seems
I mean,
almost like they're based off of some sort of mythology, but I don't have any knowledge of what they would be.
off the top of my head, I have no idea. Hang on a second. I'm going to look it up. Keep talking. I'm going to look this up.
Okay, so she gets kidnapped by the Diamond Dogs who want her to find gems for them because she's so good at it.
Yeah, she uses her special magic.
Yeah, she used her special magic, which actually does come into play later in the episode. Again,
Yeah,
it's just
because
never been established before, but of course we've established that they don't have to establish these things before.
well, I will say it hasn't been established before, but you do find out more about it in a future episode.
Oh,
They,
lovely.
yeah, they do. They don't technically go back to using it again, but you kind of find out. It's hard to explain without going into spoiler territory, but effectively, you do find out a little more about that particular spell. I think.
Yeah, so while Rarity is dealing with that and trying to escape from them, Spike goes off to the other ponies who try to get them to search for her, which pretty much boils down to Rarity kidnap gems, ponies help.
You're losing your train of thought here. Okay, I was just looking up on the Friendship is Magic wiki, and apparently Diamond Dogs were created specifically for that episode.
Okay.
There's no references to them appearing anywhere else or saying they're based off of this character or anything like that. So apparently they are an original creation.
Huh, well,
So,
just another effort to sell more toys, I guess.
well, yeah, well, they did end up being toys. Yes, they did, which isn't necessarily a bad thing. But
True.
I mean, well, yeah, if they sell the toys, it keeps the show going. So
Yeah, exactly.
it's a sort of self-sustaining thing. The shows make more
Because you can't
toys.
rely on the show itself to support itself.
Well, you can't, especially when they don't release the fucking thing on DVD. Or at least they don't release it in DVD in fucking Europe.
I
They got
seem to have struck
season
something
one-
with you.
Oh, I don't know what it is with American things. You seem to think that America is the only country that exists. That,
We are
you know,
so self-centered. You should know that by now.
I do know that by now. That's the problem. But they haven't released the Pony series DVDs in this country. I mean, I could import them. I've got a region-free DVD player, but that's not the point. It's the principle of the thing.
Exactly.
You want to buy things in your region so that if for some reason I end up with a non-region free DVD player, that I still want to be able to play them. And it's annoying. Like the one time I actually visited America, I ended up buying Invader Zim on DVD because that never got released in this country. So, what are you gonna do? What were we talking about?
We were talking about Spike getting the other ponies to go rescue her.
Oh yes, which leads to these bizarre fantasies.
Yes, Spike is kind of revealed in this one that Spike wants to be a hero of sorts. He wants to
be the knight in shining armor who saves Rarity.
Which is weird because there is a character called Shining Armor.
Yeah, but we haven't met him yet.
Okay, sorry. Oops, spoilers for the person who's never seen the show.
yeah, the one person listening to this podcast who hasn't actually seen the show. Or should I say the one person listening to this podcast.
Yeah, he has these really, really bizarre fantasies, not just from her, but from the others who are like worried about what's Rarity is going through down there, which...
When I was watching this episode, I couldn't help but feel that the fantasies were just killing time.
Yeah, they were kind of killing time. It was weird because if it weren't for the shadow, the haze effect around the shot, you would think that it's just actually happening. So I don't know what was going on there, but
it also creates the idea that they think that Rarity's in trouble.
Yeah, they think she's in trouble, which she is, but not as much trouble as they think. But yeah, Spike's fantasy was really great because he has him as this great cleft-chinned hero.
Really bizarre. It's not the kind of thing you really want to see, to be perfectly honest. It was just weird. Yeah, moving swiftly on from that random...
they go down. They're trying to get in, but the dogs are building up these piles in their holes to keep them out, but they finally manage to get through. And
a bit like rabbits, I thought.
They make this really weird decision that the best way to find Rarity is to track the tunnel with the most gems in it.
Yeah, that doesn't make sense. Surely they'd be down the tunnel where the gems already have been taken.
Yeah, or if they can't find gems, why would it matter?
Yeah. I
Yeah,
mean,
why is there are so many other? I guess they couldn't think of a MacGuffin to move the plot forward. How they would actually manage to track her down?
yeah, I guess that it's kind of a sort of a get out of this problem free card.
Maybe they could track her prints in the dirt or something. I don't know. That
I,
would seem like a because instead of like tracking through standard means, they managed to track it through the gems because suddenly now Twilight studied Rarity's ability and can duplicate her magic. Again, something that
well,
was just established in this episode.
Twilight says that Rarity showed her the spell like a couple of weeks ago, and she never tried it before.
Yeah, which happened off camera.
Well, yeah,
Because we were so occupied with the Cutie Crusaders in the last two episodes, they were off doing their own thing.
yeah, exactly. You see, this is the thing. We were so busy focused on the Q-Mark Crusaders and their terrible talent show. You know, we clearly missed all this stuff going on. I mean, you know,
We're missing key plot points because it's so important that we know that they're horrible at music.
well, except for the one who isn't horrible at music because she's really good at singing. But we don't find that out yet. And anyway, let's wrap this up already. We've been rambling on about this for way too long.
I'm surprised that we got so much material out of this episode.
Well, it's because we're trying desperately not to talk about an episode that, frankly, is kind of boring.
Yeah.
The episode itself isn't really good. I mean, it's all right. I mean, the Diamond Dogs are kind of nice design, and you know they're a bit different. They sound a bit like fucking Gollum for some reason.
Yeah, which
But
I'm sure was the reference. Because they're even saying we, which at first it seems like there's just one person there, which it still could have been because there's like three paws, and then you have
Yeah.
the thing with the tail, which kind of looks like a hand. But no, they are actually saying we, so there's like three of them there.
Yeah.
But yeah, basically, the way the episode ends up is they track down Rarity, who has pretty much managed to get them to want to kick her out for being so goddamn annoying.
Which I thought was hilariously ironic,
Yeah,
considering how much you
because
hate
you know I
Rarity.
don't like her, but they say in her defense, she is trying to be annoying.
Yeah, she's not like annoying because she's being who she is. She's actively trying to be annoying in this episode. Like when she starts whining, she actually sounds kind of annoying. But then she's supposed to sound annoying because she's
Because
whining.
she's trying to whine and try to get them to kick her out. So we also learn that she doesn't like being called a mule.
Well, that's understandable.
Few
They're-
people
they're
would
not
like to be
mules,
called a
they're
mule, I
ponies.
guess. She ends up pretty much turning them against themselves, where they are now working for her and helping them dig up all these gems. And so
Yeah.
she ends up with these like 6, 7 crates full of gems.
Hmm.
And that gives her plenty of gems to finish her dresses, so everything comes around full circle.
Yay! And it all happily ever after. Except the Diamond Dogs, who probably ended up dying or something. I don't know.
Did it ever say why they need the diamonds?
They just like them. They like shiny things,
Hmm.
I guess. They could have easily made them like birds or something. That might have made just as much sense.
Well,
But
birds live underground, but neither would dogs.
yeah, I was gonna say dogs don't live underground. Like I said, if they should have been rabbits, because that would make a little more
Rabbits
sense.
or lizards or something, or I don't know.
Moles.
Moles would have been good, diamond moles.
Yeah, that makes a certain kind of sense. Anyway,
Yeah, that was that episode. It was
it was
I guess
okay.
better than I thought it would be when you said it was a rarity centric episode, because those can be very. It wasn't a particularly girly episode, which is what a lot of the rarity episodes tend to be.
Well, Rarity
They're about
is
like fashion
definitely
shows
the
and
girliest of all the-
sleepovers and shit.
Well, yeah.
In this one, she's kidnapped by a bunch of dogs, so okay.
So sort of actiony type stuff going on, and so yeah, it's not too bad.
So
But,
then we move into now that after we had a lovely episode that had nothing to do with a fashion show, we move on to episode 20, which Green Isn't Your Color, which is about a fashion show.
Yes.
Several fashion shows, actually.
Yes, but it's not a Rarity fashion show, is it?
Yeah.
But anyway.
Well, Rarity and Fluttershy, apparently they're friends. They meet at a spa because
Of course they're
early
friends.
episode, yay.
Wow.
And she's sharing about how some fashion photographer, photo finish, wants to take pictures of her designs and put them in all the magazines, and she needs someone to model for her.
Mhm.
And I was like kind of going through else would be a good choice. I mean, Pinkie Pie possibly.
I think Pinkie Pie's a little too random for that. Applejack. No.
Applejack is too
Twilight might do it. Twilight would probably be up for it.
Rainbow Dash. No.
Definitely not Rainbow Dash. Or Rarity could have done it herself, but
Then-
apparently not.
Well, maybe that's a bit egotistical to model your own clothes.
Well, if there's no one else around, you might have to.
Eh.
Or they could have just got some random background pony to do it, because there's plenty of those.
You just put Derpy in there.
Derpy was actually in that episode. Did you
Yeah, I did
notice?
see her.
Yeah, fair enough.
Yeah, so she gets her to model, and the photographer is so enamored with the work. She absolutely loves Fluttershy.
Yeah. Oh
So
no, how ironic.
we have an episode about jealousy because yay. Well, I guess kids need to learn about that. It's also revealed that Spike has a crush on Rarity, surprising absolutely nobody.
Yeah.
Because of course, given the previous episode, which of course is established, at least in that case, they established something in a previous episode that's actually brought back in a later one. At least they did it the right order that time.
Well, yeah, that's true. I mean, it was sort of it was established, I think,
Well,
all the way back in
he's
the
enamored with
first
everybody.
episode.
He's enamored with all of them.
Well, yeah, but he's always sort of liked Rarity, sort of especially even back in the first episode where you're sort of getting introduced to all of them. He has like heart eyes when he sees Rarity and everything, and
Yeah.
so it has been previously established, and I will say it is a plot thread that does keep going and actually comes to a conclusion later on.
Oh,
For the record,
that's interesting to.
I
So
mean,
yeah,
it's not like something that's referenced in every single episode, but
right.
when they do
It's just
reference it,
something.
it's
It's just
something that
something
does
that's
show
like
up.
a consistent thing.
Yeah.
So yeah, but of course he makes them promise that they won't tell anybody, and they agree, even though they're not really keeping a secret from anything, because that also leads to
I
the.
should point out that Bay is Pinkie Pie and Twilight,
Yeah, that.
because that's who he broke the incredible news
The
to,
incredibly shocking news too.
which leads to some very
Which leads to like
entertaining.
the moral lesson of the episode, where it's losing someone's trust is the quickest way to lose a friend forever.
Forever.
Which, as I understand, became very popular within the community.
Yes.
Forever.
Forever became a thing. Definitely became a thing. Forever. It's become a thing here too. How about that? Long story short.
So yeah, long story short, we have Rarity, who is jealous of Fluttershy for being so popular and getting everybody's attention as a fashion model, but
Mhm.
Fluttershy doesn't like it, but she doesn't want to reveal that to Rarity because Rarity is so supportive of her.
Yes.
And Rarity can't reveal that she doesn't like what Fluttershy is doing because she thinks that Fluttershy likes it, but Fluttershy is just being supportive of Rarity. So, and in the meanwhile, Twilight is caught in the middle because she can't say anything to either of them.
Yeah, because it's like she knows the truth, but Rarity and Fluttershy don't know the truth. But Twilight can't tell either of them the truth because she promised not to. And if she told them, Pinkie Pie would show up and do something horrible to her.
Yeah, what would Pinkie Pie do, honestly? It would
Probably
have
just
worked
be
out for
very
their benefit.
disappointed.
This would
Well,
have it would have
technically
ended
we
the
know.
entire episode the same way it ended at the end.
Well, pretty much, but I guess it's the kind of thing that if you make a promise, you should try to keep it. But I don't know if that's necessarily a lesson that should be taught because sometimes you have to break a promise. It's like you should try everything you can to not break a promise, but sometimes it's necessary. Like if Twilight had broken the promise in the first place, it would have saved a lot of hassle
Yeah,
and a lot of
exactly. Or if
time.
I mean, sometimes you promise someone you won't do anything, even though you shouldn't be keeping that secret. They're doing something wrong, but because you promised them you would keep it a secret, you can't tell anybody.
Yeah,
I don't know.
it's
It doesn't seem like the best lesson because it's not always in the best interest of everybody to keep things secret. Generally, it is, but
generally telling the truth is often better
yeah,
in
usually.
that sense.
Usually it is better, but I mean, at a certain point, when you get into people who are like tattletales, which I'm pretty sure there's going to be an episode about that
I
somewhere down
cannot
the line.
remember off the
It's a
top of my
common
head.
thing in a lot of these kid shows where it's like
There probably is, and I
people
can't
tell on
remember.
others just to make themselves feel better, even though it's such a minor thing, it doesn't affect anything.
I
But they
don't
just
think
try
there's
to
directly an episode about tattletelling, but I'm pretty sure they do an episode where telling the truth too much can also be bad, kind of thing.
right.
I can't remember exactly. There's a lot of episodes, and they're all kind of blur of rainbow colors in my brain. So yeah, they also sort of blending into each other at one point. After you've seen so many of them.
Right, I'm sure.
So yeah.
So yeah, this episode is pretty much the classic sitcom setup where somebody has to remain silent even though everything it would work out if they said something. So of course you get this thing where she's trying to stifle herself, trying to prevent herself from saying these things, which is a light that you very rarely see Twilight in. She's very rarely the foil.
Well, yeah, I suppose they do try to sort of mix it up with the different character types. I guess it's just the fact that it could easily have been Pinky that would have been the foil, but Pinky is kind of the foil
She's already
foil,
the foil, yeah. So I guess they wanted to do something with Twilight being different than normal.
being a bit silly.
Yeah.
Twilight can be silly sometimes.
And she's usually such a bookworm, which is usually kind of the source of her comedy, how studious and how into her work she always is.
Yeah, which is yeah, as you say, sort of that's kind of where the humor from her comes from. So it's interesting to see that you can do funny Twilight without that as
Yeah.
well, which is just, I think is a credit to the show's writing as well as anything else.
So yeah, I liked this episode more than the Dog and Pony show.
Yeah, Rarity was less and distinctly less annoying in this episode.
Yeah.
I mean, as I said, she was deliberately annoying in the previous one, but in this episode, she was kind of just normal.
Yeah.
She wasn't really annoying in any real way or anything like that. It was a pretty standard episode. I think for me, Pinky makes this episode sort of from normal to actually entertaining.
Right,
The way
because
she
she's
just
always
randomly shows up.
popping up in the background, popping up in the mirror because she's a
Yeah.
fucking poltergeist.
Pinkie Pie just has no conception of the fourth wall. As far as she's concerned, the universe is just
She is
it
the
happens.
Deadpool of the My Little Pony universe.
Yeah, pretty much. Which isn't necessarily a bad thing.
She's Pinky Pool.
Yeah.
Somebody needs to draw that.
Oh god, I'm gonna have to Google that now, aren't I? Yeah, I mean overall, it's a decent episode. It's got a decent sort of moral behind it.
So yeah, I guess that'll do it for those two episodes, and we move on to Breaking Bad.
Yeah, Breaking Bad. This was Stung by a Dead Bee, which is a strange title, I thought, for a start. Now, I wondered if there'd be some sort of deeper significance to it, but apparently not.
Well, generally speaking, don't all bees that sting you end up dead?
No, that's actually a myth, believe it or not. There are some species of bees who do sting you and then die, but actually if it stings you and dies, it's actually more likely to be a wasp.
Oh.
Believe it or not.
Oh, there you go.
Yes, you learn something every day, don't you? Obviously, this is following directly on from the
previous episode, so this episode is actually lot less happened in this episode.
Well, it kind of did and it kind of didn't. I mean, in the last episode, you had a lot happening, but it was kind of simplified. You only had the two storylines. In this, we're going back to jumping all over the place again, but not much actually happened.
Well, there's not a lot of action, at least. There's a lot of storytelling. There's a lot of progress to the story, but not so much action-wise or...
No, it's sort of a nice sort of calm episode after the action of the previous one, where we see, we've had the action and now we've got the consequences.
Right.
So obviously it starts directly from the previous episode where you have Walter and Jesse running away from the shootout that Hank had with Tuco. Yay, Tuco's dead.
Yay.
They both manage to get back to town, but they do it separately. And when Walter arrives, he decides to strip naked and walk into a supermarket. Which is a great way to start the episode, actually. I was like,
yes.
I remember as I was watching that, I was just thinking, okay, this is clearly part of some plan he's got, like he's had a psychotic breakdown or something, and that's what he's going to blame his missing time on.
You get to see his Walter White ass.
Yes, lovely. Which, that's not the first time we've seen it. I'm fairly certain we saw that in a previous episode as well, didn't we?
Yeah, probably.
Wasn't it like back when it first started, he was just wearing the apron? And he didn't have any underwear on or anything.
I think he did have the underwear on.
Did he have the underwear on?
I saw him in his Walter Whiteys.
Yeah. That was it. Actually, you made that joke then as well, didn't you?
Probably.
I'm sure you did. So yeah, he's naked in a store, and then we get the intro. And so of course he ends up in hospital, like no shit, where he claims amnesia about the last couple of days. It says he has no memory of what happens, and in the hope that they'll pass it off as a one-off thing and let him go. Of course, doctors don't really work like that. If you have a blackout like that, it's usually indicative of something far more serious.
Yeah, so he didn't quite think this out properly.
Well, I mean, in his defense, you're not really going to be thinking like that, really, are you?
Yeah, he didn't think too far ahead. He thought kind of far enough ahead, but not far enough.
Yeah,
far enough.
So they end up running tests on him, and of course, they can't find anything, physically wrong with him.
Because there isn't anything physically wrong with him.
Because obviously there isn't anything wrong with him. He's just lying through his ass. And so it ends up with him going to see a psychologist. And so he decides to come clean about everything that happened because of doctor-patient confidentiality. Of course, he doesn't actually tell the psychologist the truth. But what he actually does is tell him another lie.
So he's lying to cover up his lies, to countenance other lies. Yeah, so there's a whole web of lies building up. I mean, losing someone's trust is the
Shut up. Yeah, Walter White could do with watching My Little Pony. That would be a thing. Um, God, that should so be a thing. Walter
Walter White
White,
watching My Little Pony. Wow.
Walter White watching My Little Pony whilst cooking meth. Um, with Jesse like high. Maybe Jesse's watching it high off his face, and Walter's in the background cooking. He's like, "What the fuck are you watching?"
Like, no, man, this show's actually pretty good.
Yeah, this show's pretty good when you're off your head. So we came up with this. Yeah, so Walter sort of says to the psychologist, he says that it wasn't actually a blackout amnesia type episode, but he actually just decided he needed to get away from his life and got as far as some place I can't remember the name of, and then decided ultimately to come back. And apparently that actually seems to work. That gets him out of the hospital
Yeah,
eventually.
which I mean, it's an understandable thing to go through. It's just not what he did.
Yeah, because he says like all his friends are far more successful. He's just a lowly high school chemistry teacher. He's going to be
And
dead
yeah,
in
of
a
course,
year and
yeah,
a
he's
half.
dying of cancer, so he doesn't really need many excuses to do anything he is doing.
Yeah, pretty much. So while that's going on, we've also got Jesse, who has also. I'm assuming Walter probably came up with the plan. I mean, if Jesse came up with the plan, it was a pretty decent plan for Jesse, who he obviously needs to cover the fact that his car was found at Tuco's place. So I can only assume that he somehow paid Wendy off about
About lying
covering
to
for
the
him.
DEA
Yeah,
to
although
cover
how
up
he
their
did that, because
alibi.
I thought he gave all his money to the guy who. Oh yeah, because he knows the police are after him, so they clear out all the chemicals and lab equipment from Jesse's house's basement, and then he sort of sets his plan in motion, where he gets a friend of his to give an anonymous tip about where he is. So he gets arrested, and you've got Hank, who is of course dealing with the aftermath, also of the Tuco shooting, because you got all these people who all sort of came together at that one incident, and now they've all gone off back to. So first Hank gets debriefed, and he explains, why he was there, exactly what happened. You kind of get the feeling that they weren't really desperately interested; they just needed something to put in their books. As far as they're concerned, the massive drug dealers now off the streets, so
Yeah, so
who
and
cares?
and of course his car was found at the scene, so they kind of need to find out what he has to do with anything.
Yeah.
But they
So
pretty much put together that he didn't really have anything to do with it. It's just his car.
Yeah, so what Jesse is sort of he claims that he spent the weekend at this crappy ass motel room with Wendy. Wendy covers for him quite well, actually. As I said, God only knows what the hell he promised her. I don't know. Are they like friends or something? Do they know each other really well, or?
I don't know, but I think he probably just promised her drugs or money.
Yeah, I mean, it must have been something like that because, like I said, he gave all his money to the tow truck guy to get rid of the van, just to move it off the property so none of the stuff would be found. So he clearly doesn't have any money with him, but anyway. But then comes a big surprise. I can't remember his name. What the hell is that guy's name?
Tio Salamanca.
The guy in the wheelchair from the previous episode with the ringing bell is brought in to the room with Jesse, and he's giving him such a look of contempt, just like I really hate
Well, he
you
always has
look.
that look on his face.
Well, yeah, I know,
He
but
always looks like he just despises everybody.
considering the guy can't talk and he's wheelchair bound and he can only communicate by ringing a bell, he probably does. Anyway, just when you think that this guy is gonna rat Jesse out, he doesn't. And I was really quite surprised. You said it's because the guy really doesn't like cops,
Yeah,
and he would rather.
his Hank's partner kind of explains that OG gangsters or Mexicans don't like federales.
Yeah,
So his hatred of Jesse is trumped by his hatred of police.
yeah,
So he's not ratting him out.
yeah. Which he got so lucky on that. Like, one little tap of that bell and he'd have been screwed. But anyway, ultimately, it all comes to nothing. Jesse is released without charge, as is Wendy. And so, sort of, all the sort of plot threads are now starting to wind themselves down. Jesse's released, Walter's covered for himself. Hank is ultimately congratulated for taking out Tuco in just the most I've said this before about the guy. Hank is a nice asshole. He's a nice guy, but when he's on the job, he's an asshole. Yeah, I know he's a cop and he has to be like tough and hard and all that stuff, but he really doesn't give a shit about anybody that he has to deal with. You know, I know why. You know, he deals with like drug dealers and the lowest of the low, people you shouldn't give a shit about. But he gets as a present for killing Tuco, Tuco's false teeth that he wore in a plastic
It's
what
like
is
a little
that,
lucite to.
Pyrex type box, lucite type stuff, and it's just like, why would he want this? And he even gets a cake with him with a rather bad but really funny picture of him shooting Tuco as well, which is just like, okay, the cake is a nice touch. Everyone likes cake. Did you really need to put that image on
He
it?
has a really dark. He has a dark sense of humor. He's.
Yeah, I get that he deals with this stuff on a daily basis. He always does this. You know, it's like second nature to him that, you know, all this stuff that goes on around him. It's, you know, it doesn't phase him anymore. But I don't know. I feel like you should always respect your enemy at least a little, you know? Or I don't know, maybe that's just me. Yeah, so that was in really, really funny bad taste. So yeah, everything sort of starts winding down at the end of the episode. Walter is eventually released from hospital. He's contacted, or more to the point, Jesse contacts him, just to sort of touch base, say, you know, we both actually managed to get away with this. Fucking hell. Of course, Walter wants to go back to cooking again
Oh, he can't
because
give up now.
yeah.
Of course, and you think Jesse would have to be kind of in on it because Jesse's out of money. They took all of his money in
Oh
the
yeah,
raid.
Jesse accidentally left his money in the back of his car, and of course the DEA guys found it, and they literally waved it in front of his face. Like they suspect at the time they kind of suspected it was somehow Jesse's money, but so they literally wave it in under
It
his
was found in
nose.
his car, but
Well, yeah, as he's found in his car, but the car at that point was supposed to have been stolen by Tuco, if you believe that. Jesse is broke. Walter still needs the money to cover his medical bills and everything else. So they need to go back to cooking. As Walter puts it, you know, what's changed?
yeah,
Answer,
exactly. They're
nothing.
exactly where they were 5 episodes ago.
Yeah, exactly. It's like it's kind of like one of those shows you see where like in a show like you know, some sort of sci-fi show where they're always trying to get newer technologies. It never works because you can't have your main characters becoming too powerful because that's boring. You know,
Right.
they have to
They
fail a
always have to be
lot.
fighting against odds.
Yeah, exactly. Because otherwise, it's boring. It's not interesting, and you don't want to watch that. Which makes sense, obviously. So Walter remembers that he hid both a gun and his money in a box of diapers at home, and he sneaks back, successfully manages to hide it again, sort of re-hide it where it was hidden before this whole thing started.
So again, what's
Um,
changed?
yeah, again, what's changed? We've basically just gone back to the status quo again, which is, you know, one of those things that always sort of happens in these shows.
Yes, this is the status quo in these things. Well, it will change considerably coming up.
Well, yeah, I would imagine because, I mean, as you say, the first season was kind of made just as an encapsulated little story. You know, that they didn't know there was going to be a second season. So they had all those plot threads from the first season still hanging around.
Well, when you're writing a show like this, you kind of have plans if it does continue into an additional season, but you try to make the seasons as contained as possible.
Mm.
But I think with the massive success of it, they pretty much had a blank slate at that point to like do whatever they want.
Yeah, well, as I said, that's sort of kind of what I think they were doing. You know, they had these plot threads from the first season, and now that they've sort of removed most of them, they have a nice blank slate. Now they can go wherever the hell they want to with the story.
Exactly.
So, yeah, of course, it does end up on a slightly sort of downer note because you think they've got away with it. But at the end of it, Skylar and Walter are in bed, and Skylar confronts him in regards to his second mobile. Because in the last episode, or in fact, even 2 episodes ago, Walter gets a call on a mobile and then goes out to see Jesse and gets kidnapped. When Hank checks the phone records on Walter's actual mobile, there's no call there. So ultimately, you know, Skylar, I think, doesn't trust him.
Yeah,
He
she's starting
she
to.
suspect he's hiding something.
Yeah. Of course, the
Uh,
other option could be that just it wasn't recorded with the network, or there may be any other number of reasons that one call wasn't recorded.
oh yeah, I mean, there are a lot of actual reasons, but I think she's still getting suspicious of
And of
him.
course, yeah, it's shot in the dark. Yeah, he does have a second cell phone, but she has no way of knowing that.
Well, technically now he doesn't have a second cell phone
Oh,
because
he
Tuco destroyed it.
true.
So, things have now sort of, they were up in the air in the last episode. Now things have sort of settled down. We've got back to a sort of a nice level. There's still a few things flying around, but now it's just a question of where do we go from here? You know, there's no real, ooh, I wonder what's going to happen in the next episode. It's just like, where do we go next? There's no real cliffhanger in that
Right.
sense.
It was a pretty. The only major cliffhanger is the fact that she's like confronting him about his cell phone, but he's like, I don't have a second cell phone.
Yeah, it was kind of closed in a sort of, again, it's not an actual cliffhanger. It's more of just let's continue. That the story will go on, which hopefully it will. In fact, well, but we know it will
Yeah, it will. We
because
know it will go for several more seasons.
yeah, quite a lot. We've got a long, long way to go yet. Oh my God, we have a long way to go next. Anyway, I think that's it for today.
Good.
Yay, we're
Okay,
done.
so we will see you folks next time.
Yep. Take care.
Bye bye.
Forever.